What is going on, everybody? PHX here. Thank you for stopping by, and in today's video we are going to be going over a build that revolves around the weakness status effect. I wanted to see what type of build I could come up with that kind of revolved around something that wasn't occasionally used, something that really doesn't benefit the player in any way except with the weakness proccing, you know, minus 20% damage to from outgoing NPCs. So I just wanted to see what type of build I was able to come up with, and I kid you not, I found something that is just absolutely amazing to use, something that just makes endgame a breeze to go through. And yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the build. So to start off, we're going to be going over the weapons first. So for the first weapon, we are using the Reaper. It's got armor piercing, healing received, close range damage, and then we have ultimate weakening bullets, shots inflict weakness on enemies, dark sacrifice. During combat, your weapon drains up to 25% of your max health in exchange for 35% weapon damage bonus. And then we have deadly disturbance. Critical shots activate an unstable anomaly effect in your enemy, causing them to explode, dealing X amount of damage to other enemies within a 5-meter radius. Remember that dark sacrifice was buffed in the way to benefit the player a little bit more. Instead of getting rid of about, I think it was 50% of your health, now it's just only 25% of your max health in exchange for 35% weapon damage bonus. So that is a major buff because of so that it's kind of on par with firepower. And so that you just want to keep running it on top of your firepower builds. That way, because of the mage's rage nerf or fix, essentially, yeah, dark sacrifice is in a very, very good position to be one of the top tier mods to be used in any of your builds. So I highly recommend you use dark sacrifice if you are very comfortable using it. Sometimes a lot of people aren't comfortable using dark sacrifice just because of the weapon draining, but it really isn't that noticeable, honestly, especially if you're using a trickster during like close quarters combat. You're getting your health back quite frequently, and while still maintaining 35% weapon damage bonus. So, but the Reaper is a very interesting LMG. It kind of speeds up. It has to warm up essentially in order to do its full RPMs. I don't really like using it. I did use it for a little bit during my run-throughs, but if you can find a better weapon, we're going to go over an SMG here just momentarily, but if you can find a better weapon other than the Reaper, then I highly suggest you use that weapon, whether it's an AR or an SMG for that matter, or a different LMG. The Reaper is just, it's not where I wasn't expecting it to have to build up to its RPM, let's just put it that way. But for our secondary weapon, and the one that I primarily use, is the Fatal Symbiont. So the Fatal Symbiont rolls with armor piercing, status power, and close range damage. You already get dark sacrifice on it, so there's really no need to do anything else. And then we also have ultimate anomaly surge. Critical shots spawn an anomaly energy blast that deals X amount of damage in a 2-meter radius. And then I wanted to go over this specific mod, weakness trap. Shots cause explosions, dealing X amount of damage and inflicting weakness on enemies within a 5-meter radius of the target every 3 seconds. So you are just causing explosive weakness. It is absolutely amazing. This mod is actually really, really good, especially with this build, because we are focusing on the weakness status effect. And it's just, when pairing this with something else that causes explosive damage, you are essentially just one-tapping these NPCs, and it's a beast. Your trash mobs, yeah, they're going to be gone in such a quick instance. You won't even realize like what has happened. You'll be going through all of your encounters, and the next thing you know, you're just done with it. During the bosses, though, it is noticeable. It's not as noticeable, especially because of the buffs that have occurred for the bosses. So it's just pairing weakness trap instead of using ultimate weakening bullets is actually very beneficial. I find weakness trap to actually do, or to be as efficient rather than using ultimate weakening bullets. So keep that in mind. I highly recommend using weakness trap if you are going to run this type of build, or choose something that is going to help you with causing the weakness status effect to be applied. So yeah, definitely use weakness trap. Ultimate weakening bullets would be your second best if you could get both of them. But yeah, I highly recommend weakness trap. And then for the pistol, we're just running Bolt and Thunder, nothing too craziness here. Yeah, so don't run whatever pistol you want, nothing too crazy. And now on to the gear. For the gear, we are running Defiled Visage, runs with bonus firepower, close range damage, and healing received. We do have self-medication, increase your max health by 20%. It originally was 10%, but because of the way that it was working beforehand, before they buffed and they nerfed it at the same time, they buffed it by 20 or by another 10% to give you that 20% max health, and then they nerfed it because every time you used a cooldown, it would constantly give you back your max health. So they kind of evened it out essentially. But when any skill starts its cooldown, increase your max health by 20%, and it stacks up to 3 times. You stack lasting about 5 seconds. Then we have Personal Space, grants you a 12% bonus to close range weapon damage, and then we have Instant Reload, teleporting instantly replenishes magazine in your current weapon. From next, we have the Epic Apocalyptic Breastplate. We've got max health. I would have rather had bonus firepower on this, or even anomaly power for that matter, but it does roll with long range and close range weapon damage. And actually the max health does come in handy. As you can tell, my health is currently sitting at 104,000. And then applied with the self-medication for the 60% of max health increase, it does actually, having that max health actually is kind of a lifesaver. So, you know, max health, while it's still, you know, not something a lot of people want to run, it is still very beneficial, at least to have it on one piece of your gear. And so for this, we do have it on the breastplate. And then for this, we do have Dum Dum Bullets, increase assault weapon damage by 12%, save for the feeble, increase the effectiveness of weakness by 20%. So that should be a total of 40% of damage negated by the enemies. And then we have no resistance against the fortified, increase your resistance piercing by 65%. Originally it was 100% of your armor piercing value. So for the lower robes, we have got Apocalyptic Epic, we've got Anomaly Power, Status Power, and then cooldown reduction. A little bit of pain. Highly recommend using this, especially if you're using Time Rift. Using the skill deals X amount of damage for over 6 seconds to affected targets. You can literally wipe out trash mobs with the single use of this skill and not even fire a single round. It is an absolute beast, and I'm actually surprised it is a tier 1. It should be a tier 3. It's just an absolute game changer. Plate Piercer, increase your critical damage by 30%. The bonus is equal to 50% of your armor piercing. And then we also have Rejuvenation. Not a bad mod. Would prefer something else, probably like Damage Absorber or something. But Rejuvenation, you do receive your X amount of firepower, X amount of anomaly power, and X amount of armor bonus for 5 seconds. Whatever your health is replenished for every 8 seconds. So there is a gap in between of about 3 seconds for that cooldown. And then we have Gauntlets of the Cannonball, bonus firepower, cooldown reduct, skills life leech, and then we have Captain Hunter, increase your damage against elites by 16%, Death's Door, doubles your armor whenever your health drops below 35%. Going back between Death's Door and Damage Absorber, it's all dependent on how you want to run this build. You don't even have to run both of them. You can run something else that you really want to. But for me, Death's Door, I feel like it does help in a way. But again, it feels very negligible in the way when your health does drop below 35%, because I mean, as long as you're quick enough to regain your health back, then you know you might benefit from Death's Door. But if you don't want to run Death's Door, I recommend you running Damage Absorber, or just run something else that is going to benefit your playstyle and benefit the build in general. And then we also have Trample the Weak, deal 12% more damage against enemies afflicted by weakness, which is its own multiplier. So you're doing, you know, a good amount of damage towards these enemies that have been afflicted by weakness. And again, using the mod like Weakness Trap on top of the dealing X amount of damage and inflicting weakness, you're obliterating all these mobs during your encounters. And then lastly, we do have Foot Gear, the Cannonball. We have Anomaly Power, cooldown reduction, skills life leech. Pain Transfer is another very good mod to use, especially if you're using Time Rift. 20% of weapon damage and 20% of anomaly damage dealt to one affected enemy will be transferred to another affected enemy. Phantom Dash, you know, if you know my builds, if you've watched my videos, you know that I prefer Phantom Dash over the actual roll just because it feels smoother and it feels a lot more quicker, especially for a trickster. And then we have Hyperloop, Hunt the Prey. The skill can be activated one more time before triggering the cooldown. This has saved me several different encounters, so I would recommend you try and get the Hyperloop mod to drop on one of your gear set pieces. Going back to the weapons real quick, I just wanted to give you an idea of what else to run. If you didn't want to run the Reaper, then I would recommend you run. And if you feel comfortable, like if you don't feel comfortable enough using something that has like armor piercing or crit damage on it, then I would recommend you run Voodoo Matchmaker. So for my Voodoo Matchmaker, so specifically like this one right here, it rolls with weapon life leech, which does help in staying alive. Healing received doesn't really apply to you, especially if you're running solo. And then we have close range damage. But the other thing I wanted to note was the ultimate damage link on top of running pain transfer. So we have 20% of weapon damage, 20% of anomaly damage dealt to one affected enemy will be transferred to another affected enemy. But then we also have 4 ultimate damage link. Shots link up to 4 enemies, sharing 40% of the weapon damage dealt to 20% of their anomaly damage dealt. So by having ultimate damage link and also having pain transfer, you're stacking on top of it and you're causing so much damage. You're wiping out mobs. And then we have dark sacrifice, and then we also have weakness trap. So I would recommend you run Voodoo Matchmaker or something else that does roll with weapon life leech if you don't feel comfortable enough using something that rolls with crit damage or armor piercing. So on to the skills, we are running Twisted Rounds, of course, increase your firepower by X amount, Hunt the Prey for instant reload, and then we also have Time Rift. If you don't feel comfortable using Time Rift, you can use the Bubble. The Bubble is a deception skill, and this will help you in collecting your mobs and going into the Pax tree, which we will go into here momentarily. But with Time Rift, that's how, if you saw the gameplay footage, that's how I'm able to do so much damage, wipe out mobs, with a single round, nothing too crazy. Next for the class, here is the class tree. Again, we are from doing the top tier tree just alone. I found it more beneficial to run a hybrid of top tier and bottom tier anomaly power and firepower. So take a snapshot of this and you should be good to go. If you really wanted to run a top tier tree firepower trickster, you could, but you will be sacrificing at least 200 to 300k. You'll still be proccing millions of damage, but you won't be proccing them as much as if you were running the bottom tree anomaly power with the concentration nodes and your assault master as well. For the Pax tree, we are running bottom tier Pax tree again. I tried a different combination. I did try doing the damage, reactive shielding, phasing, great expanse, and the quantum entanglement. All items at close range share 30% of your weapon damage. I wanted to see if this would actually hop on top of pain transfer and also on top of ultimate damage link. I didn't really notice much of a difference. Doesn't mean that it doesn't work in general. It just means that maybe I wasn't doing it correctly. Maybe whichever one is higher is the one that gets benefited more. But yeah, so you could run this the top tier tree right here, going into damaged, reactive shielding, phasing, great expanse, and then into quantum entanglement. But again, remember that when you are going up against the boss phases, this one really isn't going to come into much of a benefit. But we are running bottom tier tree for this. We are running Trigger Man, activating deception skills, react to 50% shield every 1 second for 4 seconds. This one comes in handy a lot, especially for your bubble too. If you are going to run the bubble, gives you your shield back, especially during the final boss, the final arbiter, with his stupid encounters, which I think they buffed. I think they fixed a lot of the bugs that were going along with the arbiter, because now it feels like an actual fight rather than just how it used to be. We've got failsafe protocols, we've got power overwhelming, and then we also have perpetuum trickery. So doing the critical shots still, increasing your anomaly power by 10%, stacking up to 5 times, so you get 50% anomaly power, which will increase your twisted rounds as well. But yeah, so that is the Pax tree. And then for the Ascension tree, running it the way you want to run it. For me, I'm doing cooldown reduction, critical chance, critical damage, and damage against elites, weapon leech, weapon damage, close range damage, and armor piercing, along with anomaly power for anomaly, skill leech, and the anomaly, and then working on the armor increase as well, because I find that having more armor is a lot more beneficial than anything else. But that is just me. Run however you want to run your ascension tree. But other than that, guys, that is it. That is all I have for the build. I'm having a lot of fun with this build, honestly. It's a lot more fun than I've ever had. I didn't think I would like using or building around the weakness trait because I didn't know how it was going to be, but it's an absolute game changer. It is a beast. If you're having trouble with it, you know, if we go quickly, let's take a quick look at the stats before I show you what the weakness trait actually does. But as you can see, firepower 1.2 million, anomaly power 1.1 million. We have a resistance piercing at 59%, physical damage reduction at 49.2%, and then we have our weapon life leech at 5.5, skill life leech 7.5. So nothing too crazy, but yeah. So that is the stats there. And then let's go quickly and I'll show you what weakness actually does. So weakness decreases the damage dealt by 30% for 6 seconds. So damage dealt by the enemy of 30% for 6 seconds. So you have this on top of the 20% of damage or 20% effectiveness. So you should be able to do that. Should go into 50% of the damage dealt by the NPCs. So, and again, having weakness trap, explosions, dealing X amount of damage and inflicting weakness on enemies within a 5-meter radius. So when you get into those big groups, it's just, yeah, you're able to survive, you're able to eliminate, and overall you're just able to slay bodies while using this build. Again, use whatever you feel comfortable with, and build this to your own specifications. This is nothing but a blueprint. This is not the best build. This is not anything crazy. This is just something I came up with and I find very useful and very beneficial getting through endgame content. So, all right, guys, that is it. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, definitely leave comments down in the section below. It helps with the channel getting noticed. Leaving a like helps as well. Even just the engagement is very beneficial, and it's awesome that you guys are still engaging in the Outriders content. So thank you so much for that. The support is greatly appreciated. You have no idea. But again, guys, that is it. That's all I have for you. Really hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys around next time. Take care.